Lately, there has been a lot of concern over supply chain issues, and rightly so. Um, we in our one of our recent team meetings, we discussed about 10 different topics that are affecting food in the United States as well as across the world. We notice it more specifically in the United States because that's where we're located. Some of the areas of concern are water rights has been a recent issue with states where farmers who actually own their wells are being told that they can't use the water from their wells. The concern coming from potentially where that water is coming from, whether it's being fed from aquifers that would affect new construction. This is something that we've been dealing with locally here in Washington State with one of our farms. And I've been hearing that there are reports of similar issues across the United States. Likewise, we're dealing with issues such as droughts and weather conditions, which are affecting crop growth, and fertilizer problems, where there's a lack of fertilizer in order to get the yields that we are used to. Combine that with problems with imports and exports from other countries, with cargo containers sitting off the shore waiting to be allowed into the United States, causing spoilage of food. Needless to say, there are a lot of elements that are causing issues with our food, and we're starting to see it in the grocery stores with empty shelves and high prices. One of our most recent concerns is the trucking vaccine mandate between the U.S. and the Canadian border. There was a little bit of false hope recently where there was falsely reported that they were easing up on those vaccines. Most notably here from Reuters, Canada drops vaccine mandates for its truckers after pressure from industry. This isn't true. This isn't true at all. Canada... The Minister of Transportation has come out and said that that was reported in error and that they will still be requiring vaccines. So U.S. truck drivers who will be trying to deliver to Canada will be turned away if they're not fully vaccinated. And unvaccinated drivers coming from Canada will have to wait for a 14-day quarantine period. And if they're not vaccinated, they won't be allowed back into Canada. That's my understanding. Let's listen here to what the Minister of Transportation says, just so you know this isn't coming from me only.
Government issued a clarification today on entry requirements for truckers. Truckers will have to be fully vaccinated to enter Canada. This clarification comes after information shared with media about exemptions caused confusion. The information was, quote, provided in error. The Minister of Transportation, Omar Al-Gabra, is here now. Minister, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, David. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you today.
How did this happen? Why has there been so much confusion about this over the last 24 hours on such a pretty core issue?
Yeah, David, first, let me just say that we've been consistent since the day we announced this policy on November 19th. And prior to that, we've been consistent with other mandates that we've implemented in our aviation sector, within our rail sector. And on November 19th, we announced that we are lifting several exemptions that have been provided over the last few months or the last year and a bit, including for truckers who are crossing the borders, requiring them to be fully vaccinated. So and since November 19th, we've been consistent.
So there you can hear. So November 19th, they announced that they would be removing the exemptions that allowed truckers to enter and exit the United States and Canada. To where now they are going to be requiring fully vaccination, and they have not lifted that ban, so it was falsely reported. So this is a thing, and it's going to affect us. Early reports are that it will affect anywhere from 10 to 20,000 truckers. There's definitely a subset of them that would rather lose their jobs than receive the vaccination. I don't know why. I imagine that they're consulting with their health professionals and have taken under advisement what is right for them. But the end result of this is it's going to have an impact on our imports and our exports, not just food. I fear that Canada is probably going to suffer more than the United States because Canada receives a lot of food from the United States, where the United States receives a lot more machinery, parts, oil, and plastics from Canada. I believe that there is some food that comes from Canada, but by and large, our imports are more material than agricultural. I'd like to point you to our project. at Anara, we're looking to build an online farmers market where farmers can list their business and list their products. We have a heavy focus on geolocation so that consumers can actually use our website and our mobile app. You can find links for the mobile app on Google as well as the Apple Store. But you can use our services to find food locally. So whether it's live animals, eggs, vegetables, and such. So we're looking to make it easier for local farmers to have new avenues to sell their products, connecting consumers with the producers. I wish there was more that we can do. I am expecting that things are not going to get better in the short term. I fully believe that this will continue to ramp up, and you should be prepared. Fully expect that a day's worth of food is going to cost you between $200 and $400 by the end of the year. That's some of the early reports that were, some of the early conclusions that we're coming to, considering all the things that are going to affect your food. So the more that you can actually grow your own food or support those local farmers who are close to you, the better off you're going to be. And if you haven't started building up a stock or a supply now, you should start immediately. This vaccine mandate goes into effect tomorrow, Saturday, January 15th, 2022. So good places to get bulk food is Cash and Carry, formerly known as Cash and Carry. I believe it's called U.S. Chef Store now. Costco, these bulk warehouses. Azure Standard is a good place online to get large amounts of food delivered to you or delivered to a distributor close to you. Things like that. So you should be preparing. You can also stock up on MREs. You can stock up on these emergency food buckets where you get like 4 weeks worth of food in a bucket. They usually last 25 years. I highly recommend looking on how to store food if you're going to store it in bulk. So grains, flour, sugar, different types of rice. They have different requirements for storage. Brown rice, for instance, doesn't store for a long period of time. I think it's no more than a year because it has fat in it. Likewise, brown sugar, because of the molasses, can spoil. But things like oatmeal and white rice and flour, I believe you can store those for 25 to 50 years when they're stored properly. So we're going to start doing some how-to videos on this channel to show how we're preparing and what we've learned. But for now, I highly encourage get signed up on our app if you have a product, and help us raise awareness, help us grow this product so that it can help combat some of these famine scenarios that are starting. Make no mistake, these are famine scenarios that are happening. So there are areas that have no food on the shelves, very little food, and prices are skyrocketing. So this is something you should be paying attention to if you're not. And look into this. Keep your eyes open. Watch what's going on yourself. We've noticed at least 10 things that are going to affect food production and food costs. So help us combat that by supporting local farmers, and also learn how to grow your own food, even if it's a tomato plant and some lettuce and some peppers on your porch, potatoes, any kind of food that you can grow will help. Start learning how to do that now before it gets really bad. Thanks again for listening, and take care.